Yeah.
How big was that win for the season and the goals that you guys had?
Well, as I've mentioned before, every game is of equal value in terms of it being one win. But in terms of the impact it has on going forward, it was huge. A loss up there in regulation in 1 overtime and 2 overtimes would have really impacted our chances of moving forward. The win, it helps, but what it does is it allows us to move forward and try to compete still further for that large bid.
How intense is it right now? Because it is pretty much, you know, it's survive in advance almost without being in the tournament already. You know, how concerned are you that that kind of pressure is something they can sustain the rest of the way?
Well, we met about this on Friday before we left on Saturday, and on Sunday when it was announced that the game had been postponed, in order to relieve the pressure, we played a little ballroom baseball, and you probably have seen the video. And I think that put the things in its proper perspective. The guys had a lot of fun. They enjoyed each other's company. They competed. I think that the best I've seen the team spirit was on Sunday during that baseball game. And the last time I think I saw it that way was back in Spain. I'm not talking about winning a game. I'm just talking about being together and enjoying each other's company.
This team has had its struggles, you know, at home. Anything you're doing differently heading into this game, or do you think they'll kind of recognize the importance at this point?
Well, our struggles at home a lot have to do with the opponent. You know, this next opponent is very, very different, and our guys don't know much about them. And we're not always great when we don't know a lot about an opponent. Our guys have been very good when they feel like they know the opponent. Florida, they kind of knew them. Illinois, they kind of knew them. Duke, they knew very well. But some of the other opponents they just weren't quite as familiar with, and as much as we tried to familiarize them with the opponent, that they have to kind of embrace that information and be able to interpret it and use it to their advantage. So today we'll watch more video to show them what we see, because the coaches watch a ton, but the players only watch, you know, minutes, 15 minutes. So today we'll watch a good bit more.
DeAndre was able to get in yesterday and had a nice performance. What was some of the mindset on getting him in? Was it just trying to see what he could do after having him sit out as much as he did?
Well, DeAndre went through what I think each of our freshmen have gone through, except to a larger degree. Each of our freshmen has a certain amount of talent. Each of them has a certain amount of things they have to learn. We've had guys like Omar Sherman move into the starting lineup and then move out of the starting lineup. When DeAndre moved into the starting lineup, unfortunately for him, but fortunately for the team, we had some guys coming off the bench and play great. Manu, Jaquan, and so that reduced his playing time. The struggle for him was learning how to cope with that. Yesterday, James Palmer started, but DeAndre was the one that played, the last 18 minutes of the game. So his role was different, and the reason I was able to put him in the game is because the way he's been practicing. There was a time period there where he was just down in the dumps, and it's hard to play a guy who's battling it mentally. But in the last couple of weeks, it was not just leading up to Boston College, but I thought about it several times before that. But in the Boston College game, I'd already decided if we fell behind like we did at Wake Forest, that I would go to him and hope that he could give us a spark off the bench. And when he did, I just stayed with him like I have in the past with other guys, like when Manu came in off the bench at Duke, when DeAndre came in off the bench at Illinois, when Jaquan came in off the bench at Notre Dame, when Yvonne came in off the bench at against Clemson. You know, once you see a guy's got it going, we tend to stick with him.
In terms of him being down in the dumps, is that one of those things a kid just has to play his way through, or was that, how involved were you guys in trying to pull him out of that?
It's first starts as emotional. You're upset, frustrated, angry, whatever the term is. That affects you mentally. Now you're not as focused on what you should be doing, and then that affects you mentally. Now you don't shoot the ball as well, you don't make as good decisions. So it's really like a snowball effect. You know, it starts out something small and it just grows and grows and grows until finally, you know, as a coach, you just say, hey, I'm not going to use him for a while, and hopefully he'll recover on his own.
Can you talk about Tanya's progression and just through the season, what you've seen from him?
Well, Tanya's performance has been the most consistent at the defensive end of the floor in his rebounding. And we need another big guy to step up and do the same things, Yvonne or Omar. But what he does is he helps the other players play good defense, because they're constantly being screened, and he helps them with getting through those screens. And he does it in a very positive way. He does it very consistently, and he's been able to keep himself out of foul trouble for the most part, so that he's consistently on the boards. Offensively, his free throw shooting has improved dramatically from freshman year to sophomore year to junior year. And we're working with him on his back to the basket game. And I think that's something he's starting to show signs of being confident in, because late in the game, he really took his time and scored a jump shot right in the lane over the Boston College defense. And normally he rushes, but he didn't. He really slowed down, which was good.
Do you feel like Yvonne is refining his game? I mean, is this the type of thing that can last? You know, like we're going to look back next year and say, boy, he was kind of really struggling, you know, throughout that whole second half, or do you start to see him kind of find it a little bit?
Well, some of it has to do with the level of play we're at and the caliber of athlete he's playing against. It's new to him. And he has some limitations. He's not the fastest guy or the quickest laterally. And most of his issues come at the defensive end of the floor. He's a very good offensive player, but it does matter what you're doing offensively, but if you can't do the things we need done defensively, that means Tanya's got to stay in there, because he's the guy who can.
In terms of tomorrow, what have you been able to see a little bit already on? I mean, you've started watching film, I imagine. What kind of the challenges are they?
Virginia Tech is shooting the three incredibly well. They start 4 guys on the perimeter who can all shoot threes. They share the ball extremely well. They're very well coached. They have one big man in the game all the time, and that guy basically screens for those guards. And those 4 perimeter players shoot the three, very similar to Wake Forest, very similar to Notre Dame. and it's very hard for us to guard.
I was gonna say, how concerned are you about some of that perimeter?
Well, we found out at Wake Forest and at Boston College, teams that really spread us out and shoot the three well have a lot of success. So we're going to have to be at our best defensively. And we've been going with a smaller lineup, and we'll be sticking with that.